Somewhere in your car, there is a metal more valuable than gold. More valuable than platinum. A metal so rare that all the rhodium ever mined in human history would barely fill a single swimming pool. You have probably never heard of it. But without it, the air in every major city on Earth would be unbreathable. Today, 1 gram costs $408, and the world is running out of it. This is the brutal reality of rhodium. 1 gram, $408. That is more than most people make in a day. Gold costs $93 per gram. Platinum, $32. Rhodium destroys them both. Rhodium is 100 times rarer than gold. The Earth produces about 3,100 metric tons of gold every year. Rhodium, just 30 metric tons. The entire world supply fits inside a single semi-trailer truck. South Africa controls 80% of all rhodium on Earth. One country, one region, the Bushveld Complex. If something goes wrong there, the global price explodes overnight. 84% of all rhodium produced goes directly into catalytic converters. If you own a gasoline car, you already own rhodium. Right now. Without it, your car poisons the air around it. In 2021, rhodium hit $29,000 per troy ounce. Car manufacturers nearly stopped production. Some called it the most dangerous metal in the world, not because it is toxic, but because the economy depends on it. Here is the insane part. There is no such thing as a rhodium mine. Zero. It only exists as a byproduct of platinum and palladium mining. You cannot dig for it directly. You find it by accident. 1/3 of all rhodium today comes from recycled catalytic converters. That old junked car sitting in a scrapyard? It contains rhodium worth hundreds of dollars. Most people throw it away without knowing. And here is the thing that nobody talks about. Rhodium did not just appear one day. It took centuries of science, accidents, and industrial revolutions to discover what it actually does. If you are not subscribed yet, hit that button right now, because what comes next is the part that changes how you see every car, every factory, and every breath of clean air you have ever taken. Let's begin. Rhodium. Element number 45 on the periodic table. Symbol, Rh. It belongs to the platinum group metals. 6 rare elements that share similar properties and almost always appear together deep inside the Earth. Rhodium was not discovered by searching for it. In 1803, English chemist William Hyde Wollaston was working with a sample of crude platinum ore from South America. He dissolved it in acid, removed the platinum, and was left with a strange red residue he had never seen before. That residue was rhodium. He named it after the Greek word rhodon, meaning rose, because of the red color of its compounds. For almost a century after its discovery, rhodium was considered little more than a scientific curiosity. It was too rare, too expensive, and too difficult to work with. Nobody knew what to do with it. Then the 20th century arrived. Cars arrived. Factories arrived. Air pollution arrived. And suddenly, this forgotten metal became the most critical industrial material on the planet. Today, without rhodium, modern civilization as we know it would face a serious environmental crisis. The air quality in cities like Beijing, Los Angeles, and Mexico City depends directly on this metal. And most people have never heard its name. Rhodium does not announce itself. It hides. Deep inside the Earth, mixed with platinum and palladium, in concentrations so small they are almost impossible to detect. We are talking about 0.0002 parts per million in the Earth's crust. To put that in perspective, gold is already considered rare, and rhodium is 100 times rarer than gold. The place where most of the world's rhodium is trapped is a geological formation in South Africa called the Bushveld Complex. This ancient volcanic structure, formed over 2 billion years ago, holds the largest concentration of platinum group metals ever found on Earth. It covers an area roughly the size of Florida and contains an estimated 5,200 metric tons of rhodium waiting to be extracted. South Africa produces around 25 metric tons of rhodium per year, accounting for 80 to 90% of global supply. The second largest producer is Russia, with mines in the Ural Mountains and the remote Kandahar region in Siberia, producing about 1.8 metric tons per year. Zimbabwe contributes 1.5 metric tons from the Great Dyke Formation. Canada adds 0.4 metric tons from nickel mines in Ontario. That is the entire world. 4 countries. And one of them, South Africa, controls everything. Any strike, any power outage, any political instability in one South African mine sends shockwaves through global automotive manufacturing within weeks. Here is the brutal reality of rhodium mining. There is no such thing as a rhodium mine. Not one in the entire world. Every gram of rhodium ever produced was found by accident while digging for something else: platinum, palladium, nickel, or copper. This makes rhodium supply almost impossible to increase on demand. You cannot simply decide to mine more of it. The South African mines where most rhodium comes from are some of the deepest and most dangerous in the world. Workers descend more than 2 kilometers underground to reach the ore layers called the Merensky Reef and the UG2 chromatite. These are thin horizontal layers of rock, sometimes less than 1 meter thick, stretching for hundreds of kilometers. The conditions are extreme. Temperatures underground can exceed 50 degrees Celsius, and the mines require constant ventilation systems just to keep workers alive. Once the ore is blasted and brought to the surface, it goes through the first stage of crushing and grinding. Massive rotating mills reduce the ore to a fine powder, almost like gray flour. At this stage, the rhodium content in that powder is so small it cannot be seen with the naked eye. The real work is just beginning. And the process that comes next involves chemicals, extreme heat, and one of the most complex separation procedures in industrial chemistry. After crushing and grinding, the powdered ore enters a process called froth flotation. The powder is mixed with water and special chemical reagents that cause the platinum group metals, including rhodium, to attach to air bubbles. These bubbles float to the surface, creating a mineral-rich froth that is collected and separated from the waste rock. The result is a concentrated material called PGM concentrate, which contains all 6 platinum group metals mixed together: platinum, palladium, rhodium, iridium, osmium, and ruthenium. This concentrate is then sent to a smelter, where it is heated to over 1,500 degrees Celsius in electric arc furnaces. The extreme heat separates the metals from the remaining sulfur and silica, producing a metallic alloy called matte. This matte goes through a second refining stage called the base metals refinery, where copper and nickel are removed using electrochemical processes. What remains is a substance called precious metals concentrate, a mixture of just the 6 platinum group metals. Now comes the most technically complex part. This PGM concentrate is dissolved in a mixture of hydrochloric acid and chlorine gas, a process called chlorine leaching. Each metal reacts differently to specific chemicals, allowing scientists to selectively precipitate and extract them one by one. Rhodium is one of the hardest to isolate. Its chemistry is complex and its reactions are slow. The full refining process, from or to pure rhodium metal, takes between 6 to 8 weeks. After weeks of chemical processing, the final result emerges: pure rhodium. It appears as a silver-white powder or small sponge-like pieces that are then melted and cast into small ingots. Pure rhodium is extraordinarily beautiful. It has the highest reflectivity of any metal, meaning it reflects light better than silver, better than platinum, better than anything. Under bright light, a polished rhodium surface looks almost like a mirror made of liquid silver. But rhodium is not just beautiful. Its physical properties are what make it so irreplaceable. It has a melting point of 1,964 degrees Celsius, higher than iron, higher than nickel, and able to withstand the brutal heat inside a catalytic converter without degrading. It is also extremely hard and resistant to corrosion. Unlike silver, which tarnishes quickly when exposed to air, rhodium maintains its mirror-like finish indefinitely. This is why jewelry manufacturers use rhodium plating on white gold rings and necklaces. A microscopic coating of rhodium, sometimes just 0.1 to 0.5 microns thick, protects the metal underneath and gives it that brilliant white shine. That engagement ring you might be wearing right now? There is almost certainly rhodium on it. The annual production of pure rhodium in the entire world, every mine, every refinery, every country combined, amounts to just 30 metric tons per year. To visualize that, it is roughly equivalent to 4 average-sized cars. That is everything. That is the entire global supply. 84% of all rhodium produced in the world goes to one single application: the catalytic converter. This device, a metal canister mounted underneath every gasoline-powered car, is one of the most important pollution control inventions in human history. When your engine burns fuel, it produces a toxic gas called nitrogen oxide, or NOx. This gas causes smog, acid rain, and serious respiratory damage in humans. Before catalytic converters became mandatory in the 1970s, the air in cities like Los Angeles was so thick with smog that schools would cancel outdoor activities for weeks at a time. Inside the catalytic converter sits a ceramic honeycomb structure coated with a thin layer of platinum, palladium, and rhodium. As hot exhaust gases pass through this honeycomb at temperatures between 400 and 800 degrees Celsius, a chemical reaction occurs on the metal surface. Rhodium specifically targets nitrogen oxide molecules and breaks them apart into harmless nitrogen and oxygen gas. Platinum and palladium handle carbon monoxide and unburned hydrocarbons. But rhodium is the only metal known to efficiently destroy NOx at the temperatures found in a car exhaust system. Nothing else comes close. Scientists have tested hundreds of alternative materials. None perform as well. This is why removing rhodium from the supply chain would not just affect car manufacturers, it would force a complete rollback of global air quality standards that took decades to achieve. That is the true power and the true danger of this metal. The future of rhodium sits at a crossroads between two powerful forces pulling in opposite directions. On one side, the global push toward electric vehicles, which requires zero rhodium and zero catalytic converters. If the world fully transitions to electric cars, demand for rhodium could collapse completely. On the other side, the billions of gasoline and hybrid vehicles that will continue operating for the next 20 to 30 years, combined with increasingly strict emissions regulations in China, India, and Europe that are actually demanding more rhodium per vehicle, not less. In 2026, rhodium prices have climbed 29% year over year, sitting at $408 per gram, a signal that demand is outpacing supply right now. Global production is forecast to reach 41 metric tons per year by 2032, a modest increase that barely keeps pace with demand. The recycling industry is becoming critical. Today, 1/3 of all rhodium comes from recycled catalytic converters. As more old vehicles are scrapped, this recycled supply will grow, but it will never fully replace primary mining. The deeper question is geopolitical. With 80% of supply controlled by one country, any major disruption in South Africa, a power crisis, labor strikes, or political instability can send rhodium prices to levels that paralyze entire industries overnight. It happened in 2021 at $29,000 per ounce. It could happen again. This tiny metal, invisible to the human eye, holds the global automotive industry in its hand. From a red residue discovered by accident in 1803 to the invisible shield protecting the air of every major city on Earth today, rhodium is proof that the most powerful forces in the world are often the ones nobody sees. 1 gram, $408, 100 times rarer than gold. Controlled by one country. Found only as an accident of mining. Irreplaceable in the machines that keep our air breathable. And yet, almost nobody knows its name. Now you do. If this video changed the way you see the world around you, the car outside, the ring on your finger, the air you breathe today, hit that like button because it helps this channel reach more people who deserve to know these things. Subscribe if you have not yet, because every week we go inside the processes and materials that run the world, and most of them are just as hidden and just as brutal as rhodium. Drop a comment below. Did you know rhodium existed before watching this? I want to know. See you in the next one.